You're driving through a dense forest, hopelessly lost and late for an important meeting that could cost you your job if you don't make it. The rain hammers your windshield, blurring the winding road ahead. Your phone, dead from a drained battery, lies useless on the passenger seat. The storm as relentless sheets of water lash the car, and the wind howls through the towering pines, their branches scraping against the sky like claws. Just as you think things can't get worse, your engine sputters, coughs, and dies. You slam your fist against the steering wheel, cursing under your breath. The forest seems to watch you, every rustle of leaves a whisper of something sinister. You step out into the rain, instantly regretting it. The cold seeps into your bones, and the wind whips through the trees, carrying a faint, mournful sound, a train whistle, distant, but growing louder, echoing through the valleys of the North Woods. You squint through the downpour, spotting a faint glow in the distance. Headlights pierce the darkness, illuminating a rusted sign that reads, "No stopping." A single train car, its paint peeling and windows fogged, screeches to a halt on tracks you hadn't noticed before. The door slides open and a raspy voice calls out, "Hurry up, we haven't got much time." Desperate, soaked, and with no other options, you hesitate, then climb aboard. The floor is slick with something dark and sticky blood, you realize, your stomach lurching. The door slams shut behind you, and the train lurches forward into the night. A faded sign above the door reads, "Starlight Express." Inside, the air is stale, heavy with the scent of oil and something sickly sweet, like rotting flowers. The car is dimly lit by flickering lanterns, casting long shadows across the worn seats. Other passengers, pale, silent figures in tattered coats, sit motionless, their eyes hollow, staring into the void. Some murmur to each other, their voices low and indistinct, as if they share a secret you're not meant to hear. You take a seat, clutching your briefcase, and try to calm your racing heart. The train's rhythm is hypnotic, the clatter of wheels a steady pulse beneath the storm's roar. You tell yourself everything will be fine, but the blood on the floor and the passenger's eerie silence say otherwise. The year is 1964, and dreams of transcontinental rail travel are fading, replaced by sleek electric trains and sprawling highways. But one line remains stubbornly diesel-powered, a relic of a bygone era, the Northwoods Limited, known to locals as the Starlight Express. Running once daily from Minneapolis to Woodruff, Wisconsin, it's the last lifeline for a small logging town, carrying the final shipment of timber from the Canby sawmill. For the people of Woodruff, the train is more than a mode of transport. It's a symbol of survival, a connection to a world that's leaving them behind. Yet whispers surround it, tales of a haunted train driven by the ghost of conductor Dalton Grant, who died in a fiery collision 25 years ago. Some say he still walks the cars. Others claim he lures passengers to a fate worse than death. You're not just any lost traveler, you're James Carver, a reporter for the Minneapolis Star sent to uncover the truth about the Starlight Express. Your editor, sensing a scoop, gave you an ultimatum: get the story or lose your job. You've always dismissed the rumors as folklore, the kind of ghost stories told around campfires to scare children. But now, aboard this creaking, bloodstained car, your skepticism wavers. The passengers' faces are gaunt, their eyes reflecting a sorrow you can't place. You glance at the man across from you, his coat threadbare, his expression vacant. When you look again, the seat is empty. Your breath catches. Had he moved? You scan the car, but he's nowhere to be seen. Another passenger, a woman with a scarf pulled tight around her face, is gone when you turn back. Your notebook feels heavy in your hands as you scribble notes, trying to anchor yourself in reason. The train slows, its brakes screeching like a banshee's wail. Through the fogged window, you see a rickety wooden platform shrouded in mist, surrounded by thick woods. A lantern swings wildly in the wind, its flame dancing as if alive. You step onto the platform, the damp wood creaking underfoot. The air is colder here, the sickly sweet smell stronger. Beyond the platform, a narrow path winds into the forest, where a weathered log cabin stands, smoke curling from its chimney. You hesitate, your breath visible in the chill air, then push forward, brushing aside branches that scratch at your face like eager fingers. The forest feels alive, its shadows shifting, its whispers louder now, urging you onward. The cabin's door is rough-hewn, its surface scarred with age. You knock, the sound echoing in the stillness. No answer. You're about to turn away when the door creaks open, revealing a tall, gaunt figure in a faded blue conductor's uniform, his face half hidden beneath a wide-brimmed cap. His eyes are sunken, gleaming with an unnatural light, and his voice rasps like sandpaper on wood. "You came," he says, stepping aside. "Welcome to the final stop." You freeze, your heart pounding. "What is this place?" you ask, your voice trembling. The conductor gestures inside, where a fire roars in the hearth, casting flickering shadows on walls lined with photographs. The images show men, women, and children, some smiling, others frozen in fear, as if unaware of the camera. A few look like they've just boarded the train. Others seem to capture their final moments, their eyes wide with terror or an eerie calm. The air is thick with the scent of decay, and you fight the urge to gag. "This is the last station," the conductor says, his skeletal fingers leaving oily black marks on a nearby table. "The Starlight Express brings those who seek freedom. Here, there is peace. Here, you can be free. Why do they come?" You press, your reporter's instinct battling the dread pooling in your gut. "Why risk it?" The conductor's eyes gleam, his smile a thin slash in the shadows. "They come willingly. They're tired of pain, of loss, of life. The Starlight Express offers release, but only if you choose it." You glance at a heavy metal door set into the wall, its surface rusted and cold. The conductor's gaze follows yours. "Beyond lies the final freedom," he says, his voice soft and pleading. "Join us." Your legs feel rooted to the spot, panic surging through you. The photographs, the conductor's words, the blood on the train, they all point to something unspeakable. Is this the fabled ghost train, a vehicle to carry souls to an unknown fate? Or is it something worse, a trap for the desperate, a cult hidden in the woods? You shake your head, your voice hoarse. "I want to go home." The conductor's face darkens, his eyes flashing with anger. "Once you board, there is no return," he says, stepping toward the metal door. It swings open, revealing a long, dark tunnel stretching into the shadows. The air grows colder, the smell of decay overwhelming. You glimpse a figure in the distance, a man in a tattered coat, his eyes filled with despair. It's the passenger from the train, now walking the tunnel's length, fading into the darkness. James Carver stood frozen in the cabin, his heart hammering as the conductor's words echoed in his mind. "Once you board, there is no return." The air inside was heavy, the sickly sweet stench of decay mingling with the wood smoke from the roaring hearth. The photographs lining the walls seemed to watch him, their subjects' eyes, some serene, others terrified, boring into his soul. He clutched his notebook, his reporter's instinct urging him to document every detail, but fear rooted him to the spot. The conductor, his gaunt frame silhouetted against the flickering firelight, gestured toward the rusted metal door. "The final freedom awaits," he rasped, his voice like gravel crunching underfoot. "Will you choose it, James?" James's breath caught. How did the conductor know his name? He hadn't spoken it aloud, hadn't shown his press badge. The realization sent a chill down his spine, colder than the storm outside. He glanced at the tunnel beyond the door, its darkness swallowing the faint figure of the passenger he'd seen on the train. The man's despairing eyes lingered in James's memory, a warning or a plea. "I'm not here to die," James said, his voice steadier than he felt. "I'm here for the truth." "What is this place? What's the Starlight Express?" The conductor's lips curled into a thin, knowing smile. "The truth," he said, stepping closer. His fingers, long and skeletal, brushed the edge of a photograph, leaving a smudge of oily black. "The Starlight Express is a promise. For the weary, the broken, the lost. It carries them here to the last station where pain ends and peace begins. But the price is high." His eyes gleamed, reflecting the fire's glow like twin lanterns in the night. "You boarded willingly, didn't you? You chose to step inside." James shook his head, backing toward the cabin's door. "I boarded because I was stranded. I didn't know." His words faltered as the conductor's gaze intensified, pinning him in place. The air grew colder, the shadows on the walls twisting into shapes that weren't quite human. He thought of the train's blood-slick floor, the passengers who vanished from their seats, the mournful whistle that had drawn him from the forest. Was this the ghost train of legend, driven by the spirit of Dalton Grant? Or was it something worse, a machine of fate, harvesting souls for an unknown purpose? The conductor tilted his head, as if listening to something James couldn't hear. "They all say they didn't know," he murmured. "But deep down they do. They feel the call. You felt it too, out there in the rain." He pointed toward the tunnel. "Walk with me, see what they see." James's pulse raced. He wanted to run, to fling open the cabin door and sprint back to the platform. But his legs felt heavy, as if the train's rhythm still pulsed through him. Against his better judgment, he followed the conductor, drawn by a need to understand. The metal door creaked wider, revealing a tunnel that stretched into an endless void. The walls were slick with moisture, etched with faint scratches, names, dates, pleas for mercy. The air was frigid, carrying whispers that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Who are they?" James asked, his voice echoing. "The people in the photographs, the passengers, where do they go?" The conductor didn't answer immediately. He stepped into the tunnel, his boots echoing on the stone floor. James followed, his flashlight trembling in his hand, its beam barely piercing the darkness. "They go where they're needed," the conductor said at last. "Some find peace, others serve." He paused, turning to face James. In the dim light, his face was clearer now, a gaunt, hollow-cheeked visage, the skin pale as bone, the eyes sunken but alive with a strange, sorrowful intensity. Dalton Grant was the first. He made a choice long ago to stay, to guide. Now others follow. James's mind reeled. Dalton Grant, the conductor, killed in the 1939 collision. The stories were true then, but what did it mean to serve? He thought of the passengers, their vacant stares, their whispered conversations. Were they ghosts trapped in an eternal journey? Or living souls lured to this desolate station for some unholy purpose? He scanned the tunnel walls, spotting a photograph wedged into a crack, a young woman, her smile frozen, her eyes wide with fear. She looked like one of the passengers from the train. "Are they dead?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. The conductor's laugh was low, like the rumble of the train's engine. "Dead. Alive?" Here, those words lose meaning. The Starlight Express doesn't care for such things. It carries who it chooses, and they decide their fate. He gestured deeper into the tunnel, where the darkness seemed to pulse, alive with unseen eyes. "Go further, and you'll understand." James's flashlight flickered, the beams stuttering as if the tunnel itself rejected light. He took a step back, his reporter's curiosity warring with a primal urge to flee. "I'm not like them," he said, more to himself than the conductor. "I didn't come here to die." "Then why are you here?" the conductor asked, his voice soft but piercing. "To write your story, to prove the rumors false, or because you too are tired?" He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming, as if the air itself bent to his will. You felt it, James. The weight of the world. The Starlight Express offers release. All you have to do is walk. James stumbled backward, his flashlight clattering to the floor. The conductor's words struck a nerve. He was tired. Tired of deadlines, of his editor's threats, of a career that felt like a noose tightening around his neck. But he wasn't ready to surrender. Not yet. He turned and ran, the tunnel's whispers chasing him, the conductor's laughter echoing in his ears. He burst through the metal door, back into the cabin, and didn't stop until he reached the platform. The train was still there, its engine idling, its single car bathed in the lantern's eerie glow. Gasping for breath, James boarded the train, ignoring the blood on the floor, the empty seats where passengers had been. The door slammed shut and the train lurched forward, its bell clanging like a death knell. Through the window, he saw the conductor standing on the platform, his face illuminated by the lantern, his eyes filled with a sadness that wasn't his own. For a moment, their gazes locked, and James felt it again, the despair, the longing, the pull of something ancient and unstoppable. Then the train plunged into the darkness, the platform fading into the mist. The Starlight Express roared through the night, its wheels screeching against the tracks as James Carver slumped against a blood-slicked seat. His heart pounded. The conductor's words, "Once you board, there is no return," looping in his mind like a broken record. The train's single car was nearly empty now, the few remaining passengers staring blankly ahead, their faces pale as moonlight. The air was thick with the stench of decay, and the flickering lanterns cast shadows that danced like specters across the walls. James's notebook lay open in his lap, its pages filled with frantic scribbles: Ghost Train, Dalton Grant, Final Freedom, photographs, tunnel. But the words felt hollow, unable to capture the dread that clung to him like damp fog. Through the fogged window, the forest blurred past, its twisted branches clawing at the sky. James's thoughts raced back to the cabin, to the photographs of smiling faces frozen in fear or peace, to the tunnel's endless darkness and the conductor's hollow eyes. Was this the fabled ghost train, a vehicle to ferry souls to an afterlife? Or was it a trap, a machine that fed on the desperate, luring them to Woodruff's desolate station? The conductor had called it a choice, freedom or servitude, but James hadn't chosen this. He boarded out of necessity, stranded in the storm, chasing a story to save his career. Yet the train had known his name, as if it had been waiting for him. A sudden jolt snapped James from his thoughts. The train slowed, its bell clanging loudly, signaling an upcoming stop. He pressed his face to the window, expecting the rickety platform and its swaying lantern. Instead, he saw a tunnel ahead, its mouth yawning like a grave. The train plunged inside, the darkness swallowing the car, the lanterns flickering out one by one. A chill settled over him, heavier than before, as whispers filled the air soft. Overlapping voices, some pleading, others resigned. "Join us," they murmured. "Be free." James gripped the seat, his knuckles white. He wouldn't give in, not to the conductor, not to the train. The train screeched to a halt, and the door slid open with a groan. A faint light spilled in, revealing a new platform, this one made of cracked stone, overgrown with moss. No lantern hung here, only the train's headlights cutting through the mist. James stumbled to his feet, his legs trembling, and ran for the door. As he stepped onto the platform, he glanced back. The conductor stood at the far end of the car, his faded uniform blending into the shadows. "You can't run from it," he rasped, his voice echoing in the tunnel. "The Starlight Express always finds its passengers." James didn't wait to hear more. He sprinted into the forest, the train's whistle piercing the night behind him. Branches scratched at his face, their touch like the fingers of the passengers he'd seen vanish. The ground was slick with mud, and the sickly sweet smell lingered, as if the train's presence had seeped into the earth. He ran until his lungs burned, until the whistle faded to a distant cry, until he burst into a clearing and saw the road where his car had broken down. The storm had passed, leaving a heavy silence broken only by the rustle of leaves. His car sat where he'd left it, its hood cold, its windows fogged. Had it only been hours? It felt like years. James climbed inside, his hands shaking as he tried the ignition. To his shock, the engine roared to life. He drove toward Minneapolis, the forest receding in his rearview mirror, but the weight of the night clung to him. He thought of the photographs, the faces of men, women, and children, some happy, others in their final moments. Were they victims of the train, lured to their doom by Dalton Grant's ghost? Or had they chosen it, seeking the final freedom the conductor promised? The question gnawed at him, as did the memory of the conductor's eyes, filled with a sadness that wasn't his own. James had felt it, to a longing, a pull to surrender, to let the train carry him away. Back in Minneapolis, James filed his story, but the words felt like a betrayal. He read of the Starlight Express, its diesel heart still beating in a world of electric trains, its route from Minneapolis to Woodruff, a lifeline for a dying town. He described the rumors of Dalton Grant, the conductor killed in 1939, and the whispers of a haunted train that carried passengers to an unknown fate. But he couldn't bring himself to write the truth. Not the blood on the floor, not the vanishing passengers, not the tunnel that led to nowhere. His editor would call it a fluff piece, a ghost story for the Sunday edition, but James knew better. The Starlight Express was real, and it was still out there, waiting. Days later, he sat in his apartment. The cities hung a faint comfort. His notebook lay open, its pages now dog-eared, stained with coffee and sweat. He'd circled one phrase over and over, "They came willingly." The conductor's words haunted him, as did the photographs, the faces he couldn't forget. He'd escaped, but at what cost? Had he left a part of himself on that train, in that tunnel? Or was the train still calling, its whistle a faint echo in the quiet moments of the night? He avoided trains after that, taking buses or driving, even for the shortest trips. But sometimes, in the dead of night, he'd wake to the sound of a distant whistle, mournful, and close, as if the Starlight Express were just outside his window. In Woodruff, the train still ran, once daily, its black smoke curling into the sky. Locals spoke of it in hushed tones, of passengers who boarded and were never seen again. Some said it was Dalton Grant, still driving, still seeking souls to join him. Others called it a mercy, a way out for the weary. James never returned to Woodruff, but he kept a photograph he'd taken from the cabin, a grainy image of a family, smiling, unaware of the camera. He didn't know why he'd taken it, only that he couldn't leave it behind. It sat on his desk, a reminder of the night he boarded the wrong car and somehow made it off alive. Or had he? The Starlight Express rolled on, its bell clanging in the darkness, its tracks leading to a station no map could find. And somewhere in the heart of the North Woods, a lantern swung in the wind, waiting for the next passenger to step aboard.